Hello. So, welcome to the afternoon session. And we begin this session with a talk by Professor Chandra Upadhyay, who is going to talk about promoting self-learning. And this is very important for all the teachers and learners. How do you promote self-learning among the teachers, and how do you promote self-learning among the students? You may be doing the best of the jobs, but if they're not self-learning, it's a problem. So, Professor Chandra Upadhyay.
So, good afternoon. I can see that lunch has taken its toll. So, how many of you took notes in the morning session? One, two. That's the first self-learning part that one should be doing. Okay, so I took down a lot of notes in my phone, and so some of the anecdotes that I would like to share before I move on. हाँ वो करेंगे. So you can correct me about these notes if you agree or you disagree. Can rote learning and mastery go together? This was a question that came out of the first lecture. So what do you think? Rote learning, matlab memory based, and mastery of a subject, can they go together? You need some of rote learning, but you have to do a little more, right? That's one question for you guys to think. Can you have, so what are the habits that we normally have? Pattern recognition, rote and retrieval, short-term memory, or are we after deep understanding? That was another question which came. Knowledge is often incremental and peer-to-peer. It's not a bolt from the blue. So have you seen these movies of old, art movies of old? देखे होंगे आप लोग सब. There's a fan whirring in the room. There's this guy sitting under the fan, specs, cigarette in his hand, and voila, an idea strikes. Doesn't happen that way. It's always something that you have to work for. Mostly these, one of these big Bengali director used to do that a lot in his movies. Accidents happen only when we are trying. So don't be afraid of accidents. The one thing that I wanted to, really bring out, which possibly missed, you guys kind of missed and we all miss, is that you can cook a good meal only if you have enough masalas in your cabinet. You can't go with just jeera and haldi and try to cook up a biryani. It won't taste good. So you need to, what does that mean? That as a student, you need to have enough ammunition with you. Ammunition is your knowledge, which will help you look at things in a better way. So if you can do that, then that's where you're researching, you're teaching well, you're doing various things. The role of staff was something which was possibly unknowingly underplayed. Okay, I believe that experience is what the staff have. They're skilled at doing the things, and that converts to knowledge. In fact, we call it wisdom. Their knowledge is wisdom. So they can actually imagine how things work much better than we do as instructors. We go by the theory, we go by what we know about the equipment, they know the equipment. That's the difference, okay? So imagining variations to hardware is it's a part of the training which we underplay. And if you are a TA in an experimental lab, the first question you should ask, why this hardware to do that experiment? That's something that we should be also, aware of. Ask the students. That will trigger self-learning, okay? So, and the other thing, if you see that things don't work, then what do? You go to the staff. What does he do? He fixes it. Jugaad. Jugaad is something which is inherent to the Indian psyche, and that's a strength. Limited, but it's a strength. We should also learn that and teach it to the students that it's more than saying, "Ye meter nahi kaam kar raha hai, wo data nahi aa raha hai." How do you make that data come? So These are things that I felt were very important learnings for me from the morning session. Okay, so let me now go to this part, which is what I am supposed to talk about. So, if you have to promote self-learning in your class, remember, here you are not a student. In this room, when you're sitting in this room, you are here as a teacher. Teacher with a limited role, definitely, because you are either a tutor in a course, or you are a TA in a lab, or you are a grader, or you are a staff member who is essentially setting up the lab, ensuring that the experiments work, the whole session happens smoothly without any flaws. The students do what they're supposed to be doing and helping the TAs run the show. Okay, so it's for that. You are in that role. And as a staff member, actually, they are also in a teacher's role because they're teaching the TA as well as the student. They're hand-holding, actually. Okay, so there, for all of you, this is a classroom in IIT Kanpur. This is your theater. Okay, and whether you call yourself a teacher or a TA or what, and we have to understand a role there. Okay, so how do you make a change? This has been talked about in all the morning session talks. And how do you learn? Learning was cognition, this, that, all those things have been brought out in the previous talks. I will not talk too much about all of them in detail, but I'll go to the self-learning part. This is something I wanted you to see. Professor Walter Knoll was one of the greatest minds of modern times, one of the great mechanicians, okay? And he said something which I find very profound, that the teacher's focus is on his students. So you decide what role you want to be in, okay? And your task, and his task is to convey a fixed body of knowledge, which is what you are doing as a tutor. You go, you are given a problem set, you have to solve that problem set in the class, okay? You have to address it. You follow a textbook and a syllabus, okay? So basically, the whole job of a teacher is to ensure that the student performs well, finally, at the end of the day. While a professor lives the subject. The professor is continuously thinking about that subject. Now my question to you is, which role would you like to be in? As a deliverer of information and ensuring performance is good, an efficient deliverer, or yourself being the Imagineer or imagination person who can play with the class as you go along, make changes, like a deft footballer going through two defenders. Messi. How many of you are Messi fans? Arey, do hi log hai, huh? Chalo, how many of you are Tendulkar fans? Some more? Huh? Did you see Tendulkar? The field is set like this. He will just go pierce the gap. Skill. So you have to actually maneuver yourself depending on what is in front of you. So you are continuously evaluating the class and adapting. Okay? To do what? To encourage learning. Okay? And to be effective in delivering what you have to deliver. So let me go to the next one. When you conduct your tutorial or your lab, you go in with a few typical mindsets, right? You go and tell the student, let me solve these problems. You'll figure out at the end of the day what is it, how to do it, right? As a teacher, I'll go and say, let me finish my lecture. You'll figure out how it is done. Another way is, you say, let's solve this problem for this particular application, or as the students will say, exam mein kya aayega? So let's solve those problems for the exam. You also want that. You are also students, right? So now it's on and more, this buzz is coming that you learn on a need to know basis. Okay, I don't understand that. Okay. Learning is never on a need to know basis, it's always to know basis. Okay, so there is no right way. You have to develop your own way of looking at things as individuals, even as a TA or as a lab staff, as a technical staff. I won't call lab staff, as a technical staff, you have to have your conviction as to how you think you will effectively teach the group of people in front of you. okay, and ensure they learn. There is this beautiful 63-page book by Professor Arthur Mattock. It is actually for TAs or for the recitation classes. He was a professor at MIT, and he took on himself the task of rejigging the mathematics curriculum of MIT in the 1960s because he felt it was not doing its job. And what we see today as the modern mathematics, the teaching of mathematics paradigm is his gift to us. Okay, so you should read this book. It's available on the MIT site. Easily you can download it and see. And you should also see his lectures on differential equations. And why am I talking about this? This has come out of my self-learning. Okay, how? Two of us were talking, two friends, and we were talking about Laplace transform. And this friend says, do you know that it's something which is non-trivial, right? Where did it come from? So is there a take on that? And Mattock, in one of his differential equations lecture, actually spends 10 minutes trying to explain the link between Laplace transform, power series, and everything else. Beautiful. Okay, and that's what we learned from there. And in doing that, we came to this book. We read this book. It's a fantastic book that you should be reading. So this is already we are into self-learning for you, okay? And that translates into self-learning for others. But, I think in all our discussions, again, you are teachers. Think yourself as teachers. You should know why this course is being done. What role it plays in the bigger scheme of things. Are you clear about it? Huh? Kya bigger scheme of things hai? Let's say if you are from the Department of Electrical Engineering, you take a specific course, Basic Electronics, the tutorial for Basic Electronics. Why are you doing a course on Basic Electronics? Why is the undergrad doing that course? Did you ask that question to yourself? Or circuits, electrical circuits. We as students hated both these courses, right? But it was for all the wrong reasons. But as a tutor, do you know where does this course fit in the bigger scheme of things? So that's why it's important to understand what is it that the training of the undergrad is going to make him or her at the end of the 4 years. It's very important. And that is given through program outcomes. Why is this course important in the whole scheme of things? And you'll see some of the things which apply equally to all of us. It is about identify, formulate problems, complex engineering problems, ability to apply engineering design. This is something we underplay a lot. We teach, we solve problems, but for what? Finally, you need a technological outcome at the end of the day. An ability to communicate effectively. So when you have Viva sessions, you realize that some of your students are struggling to answer, okay? Which also applies to you. Some of you are struggling to communicate with the class. So this is something that is important. An ability to recognize ethical and professional responsibilities. Can't underplay this anymore. This is something which is a problem today. With so many things available, it's important to stick to this as one of the guiding principles, as something which a pillar that we cannot give away. How we do it? Well, that's where your ingenuity will come in. An ability to function effectively on a team. This is what the training has to be for the students. Now, how do you as a TA inculcate all these things? Can you give me an example? Non-graders, I would say the lab TAs or the tutors. How would you do it? Working in a team, ability to communicate. How will you enforce this in your class? How will you ensure that yes, your students go through all these? This depends on how you conduct your session. Engage them. Ask questions. When you ask questions, you are making them talk. When they talk, so many things happen. And then you ask a question and you say, does anybody want to help this friend? That's when groups come in. There's a collective thought process. They all become part of it. And what do you see? Suddenly you ask a guy who's sleeping at the back, huh? Can you help your friends? Now that guy is bound by that. So there is a psychological effect which is coming on this. It's a cascade effect. That's your hope to get the so-called uninterested student or uninspired student also to get connected to the class. That's one way, not the only way. Okay? So, and this is important, then ability to develop and conduct appropriate experimentation. This, I believe, is what the lab courses possibly are missing. How many of you enforce this in your experimental lab session? How many of you make the students think to set up the experiment? Or you actually do it for them and say, go take the reading? क्या होता है? Do you set it up for them and you say, go take the reading? Huh? Yes? That's what you do? What will they learn out of that? Nothing. I don't remember any of the experiments I did as an undergrad because it was all put in front of me on a platter. All I had to bother about was my data should match the data that not the TA, but the technical staff tells me is the right data. That's all. Okay. There's no learning in that process. And you're not making them think beyond. So put yourself in that situation. Ask that question. Would I have learned anything if I was doing it this way? Okay. So this is something, so an ability to acquire and apply new knowledge using appropriate learning strategies. This is what the program wants you to do. Okay. This is where you are playing your role. Okay. And we should all be aware of it to start off with. The tutorial or the lab session that you have all sorts of students. This guy sleeping, that girl also sleeping, this guy possibly a nerd, really, worrying about what you're saying, okay? This guy maybe transitioning from attention to sleep, that mode. So you have all those people in the class and you are students, you're also doing that, right, along the way. So the question is that you have different types of students in your class. So this is what you're working with. That's why the preamble has to be there. How do you deal with these students? Okay. How do you encourage effective learning amongst them? And how do you make this session effective, interactive, and lively? And your theater is, you don't have much of a, things available to you. You have a specific set of problems sent to you by the instructor to be taken care of in the class, in that tutorial session. Or you have a specific set of experiments which have to be done. But remember, again, we will not be as effective instructors in this role when compared to your role or the technical staff's role, because you're interacting with a small group of students in a very focused manner on a specific topic of engagement. And you are actually the best case scenario for the class. Also, because you are also students not very far separated from these undergrads. So you know all the tricks they know, right? You know all the tech they know. You are tech savvy. You use your mobile phones, you use your laptops as well as the undergrads in the class. So you can actually link with them well and exploit their fixations, their likings to make their learning effective. Okay. So let me come to the typical tutorial scenario. Try to fit yourself in one of them. TA comes in, starts writing the solutions. By the way, this is based on what I have heard from a lot of you. Okay. TAs come in, starts writing the solution on and on and on, as if from memory and as if in a hurry. Okay, because hey, mere paas 5 questions, I have to do that, right? Some of you, right? Is it true or not? Tell me how many of you do that. Nobody will lift their hand, I know, because this is TA comes in, talks to students, quickly reviews the lectures, revises key concepts and derivations, talks of relevance of content, and then delves into the questions given for that session. How many of you do this? भाई इसमें तो हाथ उठा लो. This is good. This is not bad. But for this, there are certain things which have to be done. How do you review a lecture which you have not attended? This was talked about in the morning, right? Why do you have to review the lecture? One, to clear the doubts that the student may have. One. Two, to make the tutorial as a smooth extension of the lecture, where you're not talking a language which is different from the instructor, because all instructors will talk in their specific language. The same subject, they'll talk differently. Okay, the same content, they'll express differently. Okay, so it's important to attend the lectures to do this part of the class. Maybe take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then move on. TS starts with a question, ask for volunteers to start solving it on the blackboard, helping them along. Are you one of those TS? If you are, good, very good. If you are not, try to be one. Okay? TA engages in friendly banter with students, solves little, leaves the rest. He's a cool one. Many students will vouch, this guy is good. Kuch nahi karwata hai. Huh? Right? You walk in and face a wall of silence. How many of you have conducted a tutorial? Huh? Have you seen this happening? Kuch bhi bolo, no response. Right? How do you break that wall of silence? That's a challenge to you. Okay? You have a noisy class, buzz, cross-talk, and you get bashing with questions that make you think. Any one of you has seen that? Any one of us has seen that? No. This is all wishful thinking. This will never happen. Okay? So if you do not, and by the way, if you do not get butterflies before you walk in, something is wrong with you. Either you're a super stud, or, you're Superman, or, or you have not understood what you have to do. Okay? Tutorial should give the group more elbow room, the group that you are handling, not you, to ask questions, think freely, ask dumb questions. This is very important. You are also students, right? We have all been students. We are scared of asking questions in class just because we think the people around us will think it's a stupid question. Okay? That fear should go. You have to make them ask the question even if it is dumb. Interact, clear doubts. Tutorials should be uncovering material. Huh? Nindu?
I humbly submit that time is a very serious constraint.
Yes.
So if there are 3 problems to cover,
Uh-huh.
there isn't enough time to review the material. That's my experience.
Yeah, so the problem should be reduced. No? That's the instructor's thing.
So in some sense, what you're asking for is very difficult to deliver.
But again, it's a point for the instructor also. I'll talk about that. I'll come to that. Yes, it's style. It's actually style, and through actually this workshop, we would also like to reach out to the instructors that possibly what is the best way of doing this thing. If I have to do it effectively, just solving 3 problems in class. You have seen that. I have seen that. We go through the motions of solving the problems. These guys write it down. It adds to the list of problems they have as solved problems. That's it. They don't understand anything out of it. Nothing changes for them. Okay. So, anyway, chalo. So, I've come to that. How well does your instructor interact with you? You guys have done a survey, and the answers I see says that all the instructors interact with you very well. Is it true? Let me not ask you here. But this is an interaction that is there between an instructor and the class and the tutors. Okay. Pretty verbose with the demand, actually what it is that you have to do through specific questions listed out, okay, and several things, just to make the tutor think and prepare well for the class and add to what he's doing in class. For example, this is a question that in one of the tutorials was discussed, and if you see this, mechanics of solids, This is a question which has been happening. I have seen for the last 30 years. You start off with this kind of questions. Okay, several things are drawn here: free body diagram, etc. So what is it that you have to bring out? Just solve the problem, get an answer, or the process, and to see what is it that you are doing there. Approximations that have come in as implicit assumptions in this problem that could also be, given in passing. Okay. So what is it that you have to do as a tutor? Not be just an executioner of the instructor's wishes. You have to be the captain of that ship, your ship of 30 people. Okay? You lay down the rules, spell out expectations, lead the class. Unless you do that, the class will not connect with you. You will always be the instructor's assistant, not the instructor of that tutorial section. Okay? Connect with your class. Know them by name as much as possible. Use group aliases or whatever. Be excited about yourself, about the subject yourself. Exude a I want to learn too vibe. Yeah, I think we are in good shape. Plan well. Think over the lecture material and get the students primed. Ask interesting questions. Share solved examples. You can go beyond. So the 3 questions, you can go beyond those 3 questions. This is an age of e-communication, right? You can take the classroom or the tutorial section beyond the tutorial section. Okay. While doing the problems, you say, wait a minute, there are some interesting variants to this problem. Why don't I send you some solved examples? What are you doing? You are actually now showing your excitement and promoting self-learning. Okay? Because by sending those additional questions, you are making the student think beyond the script. Okay? Beyond the structure of the assignment given by the instructor, the tutorial problem list given by the instructor. Okay? You can do it from other sources. Share short reading material. Very important. If you have come across something, but for that you have to read. You have to learn yourself. Okay? Share it with them. If it clarifies a doubt, okay, share links of interesting videos. Some fantastic technological, outcomes exist as videos on YouTube. I mean, and the Professor Harbola will vouch for that there's lovely, videos on dynamics and all sorts of instabilities, mechanics, basic mechanics, which exist, or electronics, take it, name it, it's there. Okay, share those links. Because you have put in the effort of finding these things out, provided you put in that effort. Most likely your instructor may not do that, but nobody stops you from doing it. Okay? Because you are interacting with these 30 guys, you know where they are lacking. What will help them become better? Okay? So it's a responsibility that you have. Ask every student to come with their copy of the book. Very important. It's a fashion now, students turn up without the book, the textbook. How many of you have a copy of the textbook for which you are a tutor? See, very few. Even the e-copy? E-copy bhi nahi hai. With LibGen and so many things around. You see, if a tutor or the TA does not have a copy of the book, how is that person going to connect with the class? You can't. Okay? Definitely you are not so enabled that you can go and impromptu start doing things. You are not. None of us are. Okay? Possibly after 30 years of repeating the same thing, yes, we become. We pretend we have done that, but so that's something that you also have to start developing as a habit. Encourage participative learning. This encourages self-learning. Fix additional time for discussion. Give it to the students. Have you given a discussion time? Or you say, Bhaiya, ho gaya tutorial, let me go, I'm done. Is that the way you go about it? Honestly tell me. In the lab session, many of you sit with your mobile phones on, right? You are gaming away to glory while the 3 hours is being taken care of, right? Many of you, not all. I know that. This is again feedback from you guys only that tells me this. But it's true of everybody. you have to be careful. Okay. An example of playing with the tutorial questions. Here, I as the instructor played, asking the tutors to also play. Okay. The same question with a twist. That is, okay, when will the limiting thing happen? When will it, there's impending motion, but will the impending motion be translational or rotational? Okay, all those things could be, extensions, and then you ask, okay, what will happen to the normal reaction because you teach it as a equivalent force. Okay, where will it act, etc., etc. So many things can be asked as variants. Okay, don't want to underemphasize this. This is something which is very, very important. Your textbook is central to a core course, and you are tutors in a core course, not in advanced courses, right? Even there it's important. Please make sure that all students have a copy of this book, whatever be your textbook, okay? And at least they're following the book. Tell me, how many of you have read a book, technical book, in the last 3 months? Very few, right? How do you think the undergrads who are much more, a volatile bunch of people as compared to you, or, would be reading? They don't. So ensure that they come prepared to the tutorial. Make them read small bits and enforce it through those 3 questions. But there the instructor has to also play the role, okay, in giving you time. Emphasize and enforce the obvious. Taking notes is one of the fundamental part of self-learning. Unless they're, see, have you seen, do you go to the lectures? Some of you do, right? How many undergrads do you see taking notes? Less than half the class in today's time. In our time, almost the whole class used to take. Hardly anybody writes. Okay, they think they understand. But thinking that I understand and actually understanding are 2 different things. Thinking I can play a cover drive and playing a cover drive are not the same things. Okay, so we had a friend, Anindya will relate with that, who, our Sanjay Larezo. So he would come up to us and say, if you want to play the flute, just imagine you know how to play it and play it. Music will come out. We did it. Cacophony came out of it. It wasn't music. Okay, so it won't work. Ask questions, introspect. Make the students do this. They have to learn to introspect. Internalize or digest whatever little bit they've learned. Do the solved problems. Solve the exercise problems given and check it. This is for the student, not you. They should at least do the solved problems in the book, and you have to emphasize that. 99% of the undergrads in the class will never open that book, will never see even the solved problems in that book. Okay? Isn't that a fact? How many of you open and see the solved problems? Let me be a, you don't. That's the problem. Why are they there? Was the author a fool? It is to help you learn more efficiently, to see things better, to learn how to solve the problems, the process. Okay? How to encourage self-learning. So we have already talked about taking down notes, reading the book, right? Internalizing things. This is all part of self-learning. That is, the student is now trying to train himself. Okay? Beyond what the lecturer has done, what you have done in class. But you have to also aid that process. Okay? So, so there are so many things that are there, but what's important is you can actually be extremely effective in using the internet for their good. Okay? Play with it. You know how to use ChatGPT, this, that, all those things which are coming, right? You can actually make it a very constructive intervention. They all come with their laptops to class or their mobile phones. Make them use their mobile phones to find something. It's a 2-second job. Open up, hey, you stand up, take out your mobile phone. Can you tell me what is this? Go ahead. You'll see that these guys, they're slow to start off first, but then they catch on. Okay. Share similar solved and unsolved problems from textbooks and other sources, which tells the student two things it does. One, it enlarges the interested student's knowledge base. Second, it tells the student that you as a TA are interested in their learning. You're not there as a passive, passing on knowledge. This part I find is extremely important for you. We have forgotten it. Okay, you have your own pitfalls when it comes to understanding any topic. If you just take a book on basic electrical circuits, there are certain parts of it which all students who read that book find it difficult, barring a few who are different. Okay, that's a pitfall. You should be able to identify that and address it when you come to that. That look, this is where conceptual errors can happen in your understanding, and this is how it can happen. It's through the questions that you're solving in the tutorial when you get to it. Okay? Share additional material to clear these pitfalls because you should have something of your own. Okay? Share your own notes and insights on specific topics, questions. It could be handwritten or typed. Okay? This is very important for you to do. This is now going beyond those 50 minutes. You are now getting them engaged. Okay? They may latch on, they may not latch on. But it will turn out that there is a big chunk of the class which wants to learn and is not as fast as the rest of them to learn in the class. But if you are helping them along with all this, they will possibly take the bait and they'll go ahead and learn more. Some who are communication handicapped, they take time to learn. For them, sorry, I should not have, I do not know how this happened. So for them, if you are interacting this way and going beyond your classroom, they will get a better opportunity to learn through you. Okay? This is very important. This is where I think you guys have not exploited your own potential to the full. That teach the class the role of theory and experiments. We do experiments as if it's in isolation. We do theory as if it's in isolation. You can bring it together through what you are doing. Through you know how to run codes. You know how to work with these things, with openware and so on. Take an example. Do a fit of the experiment they have done in class, in the tutorial. Has anybody done that? In the experimental class, ये तो आप लोग के लिए भी है, for the technical staff के लिए भी. If you are doing an experiment, they're taking data. What does that data mean? उसका तो अलग ही कहानी है, but let's say the data is good, clean data. Now, there has to be a theory backing the data. What is that theory? They have done it in the theory courses. Connect the two. Let them see if the graph sits on top of each other or there is a variance. If there is a variance, explain why. That's a new line of learning that can come out, and that's again forcing them to go beyond the classroom. So, self-learning task is that for theory class, ask them to plan setting up an experiment, which my instructor in mechanics of solids in Kharagpur did that, and I think that was the reason why I'm still in it. Okay? For experiments class, ask them to find the theory and estimate the closeness of theoretical predictions to reality. Very important. It is not about almost the same. It is about they should be as close as permissible. And if they are not, why is it so? This is something that you don't have to actually do in your tutorial section. Go beyond. That's the self-learning part. Send them information about that. Okay? This buzz about AI and how to use it effectively. Let's forget about whether AI is good or not good, all that debate. We are all on different sides of it, right? Doesn't matter. But it is there. Okay? So, we have a certain way of understanding things, humans. Machine has a certain way of looking at data. We have to take advantage of the machine and enhance our learning or make it actually more efficient. That is for your students in the class. If you can make them integrate the two, their learning will improve. Okay. So this is something very interesting. Collaborative learning, enforcing this, that is AI collaborates with the student to improve his learning. You can do that very easily. I've played with this in my class, extremely useful. Okay, AI as a tool, augment human learning, providing support for tasks like research to chhod do, but just the course. Focus on human skills, that is enforce higher level thinking skills. This is the demand of today. You cannot become, what's happening? The so-called clerical or the low-end jobs are seemingly under threat. So you have to do high-end job. Okay, for that, higher skills. You can come up with effective strategies. By the way, this whole slide is not written by me. It's written by ChatGPT. Okay? So now comes some, I didn't want to bore you with these definitions. But there is a way by which this whole business of learning and self-learning is understood as a science. Okay? So, and that is maybe something that you can get a taste of. Learning objectives are given by what's called the Bloom's taxonomy. I still don't understand all these things too well, but it's here. So the basic way of learning is remembering, by memory, rote. Understanding, when you go and make sense of, try to interpret the information you have gathered, okay? Applying, start using it in something. And then you the higher level, where you start creating and evaluating and analyzing, okay? So this is essentially, so you go from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. So you go up this table. Now our students, our undergrads, there's a whole spread in them. Some are comfortable with step 3, up to that. Some are very good at going beyond. You have to understand where your class, individuals in your class fit, and then take care of them accordingly. Okay, there are different ways of learning, and you can test it with yourself. One is the active or reflective, that is, active learners are those who learn by doing. They need examples to learn something. You have people in your class who will say, sir, ये बहुत theory है, हाँ? थोड़ा एक practical example दीजिए, है ना? You have those students in class. Maybe some of you are like that. It's okay. They are the ones who learn through examples or by trying out. But there are also reflective learners. Learners who think about information, they prefer to think things through and understand things before acting. Okay? Then there is the sensing and intuitive. Sensing learners prefer to take information that is concrete and practical. Again, for them, you have to be very straight-jacketed. ये ऐसे होगा, procedural, okay, almost algorithmic, okay. While for the intuitive, they prefer to take in information that is abstract, original. There will be some in your class who will get excited by the abstractions, okay, but there are some, not all. You have to identify that group. They look at the big picture and try to grasp overall patterns. Why it's important for you to understand these? Because your class will have a combination of all these players, okay. Visual and verbal. Some like, see, some of you will say, sir, graph se information dene se I understand it better, right? Huh? While verbal are ones who understand both written and abstract, and the spoken word better. They would like board work, proofs, and so on. Then there are sequential and global learners. Sequential learners, they'll say, sir, सीधा सीधा समझाइए, don't take these detours, right? They are the ones who cannot process information which is very diverse. So you have to be very careful when you are teaching, when you are handling the class, to understand whether your class prefers sequential learning or global learning. Global is, you can give, sometimes it's learnt in a random way and then they organize it properly. Huh?
So I guess what you're saying is that each one of us has a majority of one of these things.
Yes, that's what we.
But when we are in a class, the others' way of learning may not align with mine.
Mine, yes.
But then you have to cater.
That's where you have to understand your class.
Does not suit me.
Yeah. You have to understand your class. You can't go turn to the board and start solving problems. That's the thing I wanted to say. And that is all through eye contact, by talking to the kids, by interacting with them more. So it's more work for you, but it's enriching work. If you want to be a teacher, and many of you aspire to be teachers at some point of time, these are things, if you learn it now, it helps you so much when you go into that profession. Okay? So there are some things that you need to think about yourself. I've just put it here. How to help sincere students improve learning. Sincere does not mean in very sharp. Those who come to every lecture, sit through those 50 minutes of your tutorial also, they are attentive, you know they are putting in the effort, but yet they get a D. Okay? Somewhere the learning is flawed. How can you help them? That's something which is a challenge. You know, whether you do it through active or passive interventions, you have to figure out. Active matlab, you start bringing them, talking to them, say, okay, let's solve this problem. How do you solve it? No, this is where you're wrong. This is possibly a wrong way of interpreting things. Okay. Or passive is by sending material, doing things. Analyze your class. Can you identify the different learners group? When you go to the next tutorial, do that as an exercise. Try to see whether you can put your class in these baskets. Okay, I have not done it explicitly. Implicitly, I know that this is the group. Okay. So self-learning for student, this comes more like the, you know, the pedagogical part of it. We have all talked about it in all these slides, has primarily these major phases. The student has to first think about it. That is the forethought. Okay. This phase precedes performance. Students analyze the task, that is, okay, I have to get a grade in this course. I have to do the exam for this course. How do I go about it? So how do I go about it will be different from how my friend goes about it. Okay. Students analyze the task, set goals and plan strategies to reach them. This task analysis requires self-motivation. How do you motivate them? And those who are not motivated, how do you help them? Do this part. At least evaluate themselves to figure out where they stand. And I believe it's a good thing to do it for yourself too, to evaluate where you stand. Performance phase. This phase involves processing during the learning stage. Students execute the task while monitoring progress and using self-control strategies to secure resources. That is, I'm trying to learn. Now I'm actually learning for that goal. How do I go about it? What is it that I need to do? Can I just go, some smarter ones will go to their friend, poach their notes, read it, and they're done. But not all are so smart. Very few are. They have to go through a systematic process of learning and then reflect on it. That's the self-reflection phase. That is, post the performance, you see, I have put in the effort, but have I gotten the rewards? If not, why? This is where now this is something that you have to also kind of goad the student into doing. They'll come and complain to you, oh, I did not get part marks, yahan pe nahi mila, wo nahi mila. Or they're trying to simply jack up their total in the course. That's all. They are not willing to analyze where they stand. See, I have written this equation. Iske liye 1 mark milna chahiye. But why have you written that equation? How does it fall in the whole scheme of things? Where does it fall? Or you just randomly wrote something, right? Tukka maar diya. So this is something that is a very important part of self-learning. And students will be able to explain, this is the learning outcomes, the relationship between key components of self-regulated learning that they have done. Wait, what happened? Okay. So evaluating the effectiveness of one's own self-learning. This is a lesson for you as well as your students, which means for me also. The motivational strategies. Okay, basically you have to get yourself excited about it as a student. This involves changing beliefs about students' ability to perform a task. We had this in the morning, right? We discussed this. This guy says, "Arey, ye to tough course hai. I will never be able to pass it." That belief has to change. The instructor with 800 in class can't change it. But the tutor with 30 in class can most likely intervene and help. It may not change anything, but he can help, intervene, okay? So, the importance and interest in the task. Many times, interest is actually linked with their own assessment of whether they'll be able to do it or not. Okay, so you have to see or some of them have gone into what we used to call the hallucination session. They are in their own trip. Okay, so that's a different thing altogether. Getting them back, and you can. In fact, you can do it better than we can. Okay, that is, you can identify which students have kind of wandered away. It's much easier for you to do, and try to get them back in the fold. Okay, not easy, but it's very satisfying if you can even change one student. Cognitive strategies involves rehearsal, elaboration, organization. You have to do this job. You cannot avoid it, right? That you have to plan, you have to rehearse it, you have to work on it, you have to organize your thoughts, you have to do things. And metacognitive is planning, setting goals, okay, monitoring learning and self-evaluation. Okay, so this is very important for all of us to understand how to go about doing this whole business of promoting self-learning. If I don't know what it is, I will simply go and shoot in the dark. Okay, so this is something which is from a student. In fact, one of the IT students who runs a YouTube site of his own on coaching fellow IT students on how to learn. Very interesting. If you see this, he has written all that very nicely in this one thing. There are low energy tasks and there are high energy tasks. Low energy tasks are more routine, like rewatching a lecture, taking notes, etc. And the high energy task is essentially what needs more effort from you. Doing your homework, okay, finding resources for your coding assignment, for other things, or to do the engineering projects. What happens is students, this part, they may take a friend's notes and try to read if they have that. Here, a lot of copying happens. The reason is it's high energy. It requires a lot of effort. So 2 will do, 20 will copy. Okay, ethics comes into play here. So you have to understand as a TA or as a grader that this is something. Or as a technical staff, you know, आपको तो पता है कि क्या करते हैं बच्चे. 2 will do the experiment, the rest of the class will simply copy the report. Okay. This I can skip, but what should it be is that you don't do all these things because your role is limited. This is more for the instructor to figure out, okay. But definitely that small space that is given to you, you can maximize your returns from it in terms of training the student. But for that, or encouraging learning and self-learning, both. But for that, you have to be excited about it. If you are not excited, nothing will happen. All this will remain a nice theoretical exercise. Okay? I think I'm done. 3 minutes before, right? So, questions, insights, experiences, takeaways. So, I have time for some questions in case you have some.
So, this sounds really overwhelming. Yeah, for a TA or a tutor or anybody who has got their main job and this is a secondary job. Yeah, and it's not really clear why this has to be taken so seriously because most students you see in the class, they are not taking their job seriously. So, any comments on that?
It's a question of what kind of value addition you want to do to yourself. At this stage, you are no longer being handheld. You are a master's or a PhD student, you know you have a career in front of you. So better prepare for it, as simple as that. And a more blunter answer is because here, Sarkar pays for you. Not so much of a luxury elsewhere. There you better do the job, otherwise you don't get paid. Okay. And I can share a lot of examples of us being TAs in such scenarios where you do or you don't get paid. You straight away start working. Right now, because it's a fact, the money is coming from somewhere, then this question arises, right?
Yes, there are no direct rewards, right?
Reward is your own career. See, when we all go for the selection of faculty, you will see the lack of knowledge or presence of knowledge. in the person, and that is a reflection of all these processes that they've gone through. And it's the fundamentals where people flop. It's not in the high-end thing. Nobody is going to ask you questions about, some intricate things from your research. Sitting there, 6 people in a selection committee room, they will ask you basic things because that's all they know. And I find that's a failing that happens. Yeah.
I think when it is said that this all sounds very overwhelming, it sounds overwhelming when put this way. But intrinsically, if you look at yourself while preparing for lectures or preparing for your course, you end up doing it. When it is said step by step by step by step, when one is decomposing the whole thing, it looks like that. But with practice, certainly we have also incorporated these into our teaching one step at a time. It cannot be done, but what I think, if I take since your takeaways, it is what we've been doing over the years, how to do it in steps, and every time we are learning. As for the rewards are concerned, in a profession like academics, rewards are always long term. If slowly the institute reputation starts going down, the jobs come down, you don't get invited to conferences, your own placement opportunities start going down. So I think it's for all of us, whether I'm a teaching assistant, I'm a teacher, that we give the best possible, thinking of the long-term goals in mind. And that is, if the reputation keeps, why do people go to Cambridge or Harvard? Why do they think of it? And why don't they think of some college somewhere else, X place? And that's because of the reputation. I think that's the reward in the long run.
So we are always trying to explain how we are as good as this college or that college. MIT doesn't have to do that. People like Professor Matak didn't have to do what he did. He was a very accomplished researcher and a mathematician by the time he decided to do this. It's the way, the processes and the thought processes within. Okay. If I want to do it, I'll do it. Otherwise, I won't do it. Okay. I'm done.